If you've just joined us, a warm welcome. You're watching Daybreak, your early morning briefing of news, business, sports, and entertainment, and of course, our daily COVID-19 update at the top of the next hour. I am Adesua Omorwan.
And I'm Kitchen Nana.
And I'm Kenneth Wume. And joining us now is Arise special correspondent KARL BOSTIC from Washington, D.C. Good to see you, KARL. Now, let's kick off with the top story, KARL. Tell us more about the Department of Justice suing the U.S. state of Texas. And what are the contentious parts of that anti-abortion law?
Well, what's interesting, Kenneth, is that the Justice Department is simply saying that Texas does not have the right to take away a constitutionally protected right of a woman to decide what to do with her body when it comes to abortion. In other words, the tenet of Roe versus Wade, says that if a woman has the right to have an abortion, and that's a constitutional right. But what Texas is doing, Texas, in a very creative way, they are saying that abortions are banned after 6 weeks. Even if it's a case of rape or incest. But it's not a case of the state of Texas that's enforcing it. What they're saying is this. They are deputizing private citizens of Texas, or as the Attorney General said, they're being deputized. It's actually almost enacting bounty hunters, so that a private citizen, if you know someone who's more than 6 weeks pregnant getting an abortion, you can sue them, or you can sue the people who assisted them. You can sue the abortion provider. You can sue the counselor. You can sue the taxi driver, and you'll get $10,000 if you win that suit, plus legal costs. I mean, what's so alarming about it is that even in the cases of rape or incest, a woman is banned from having an abortion after 6 weeks. And defenders of this Texas law say that, well, if you've been raped or whatever, that you should know better than to get an abortion. You should know better to get an abortion before 6 weeks. But the problem is, in many cases, women don't even know that they're pregnant. But, the state maintains that you can detect a heartbeat in a fetus as early as 6 weeks. And so what the Justice Department is doing is they're saying that we're not going to, block this law. We're saying that this law takes away the rights of a woman federally. So the next step is that it could go to an appeals court and then finally back to the Supreme Court. This could take some time. But in the meantime, you have the country's second most populous state, with women now finding ways to get an abortion, even crossing state lines. And now you have other states looking for creative ways to restrict access to abortions.
KARL, yesterday when we spoke about this, you predicted that the lawsuits will come. Here we have it from the Department of Justice. But just how well will these suits go for the federal government?
Well, the problem is this is going to go very slowly because we haven't yet seen a lawsuit being filed just yet by a private citizen. But basically, it's open season for bounty hunters because what's going on now is that the state of Texas, they're kind of protecting themselves from being sued directly. Actually even by the U.S. government. And the U.S. government is saying, you can't do that. You can't try to, dodge this bullet or insulate yourself by instead, allowing private citizens to inform on other private citizens seeking the abortion. So this is a new test case. The problem is this is going to take a long time to play out because it'd have to go to the Court of Appeals, then to the Supreme Court. And the problem is now the Supreme Court, because of President Trump's appointees, has 5 hardline conservatives. So that's why this is really so alarming and worrisome for liberals across the country, because other states may now follow suit.
And now, KARL, just moving on to Afghanistan, we've seen a flight that left Kabul with some foreigners landed in Doha. Now, what do we know about that flight that left the airport for Doha?
It's about 211 people who were on that flight who arrived in Doha, including 30 Americans and some even dual citizen Americans, mostly all Afghan. The problem is this. The Taliban wants to say that now the airport is open for business. They're engaging with the rest of the world. They say there are more flights to come. But if you look up north in the northern city of Mazar-e-Sharif, which is one of the biggest cities in Afghanistan, you have several chartered planes sitting on the tarmac now for days, filled with dozens of Americans and hundreds of Afghans, especially high-risk Afghans. That means usually women and young children and young girls waiting to leave. The Taliban saying that they don't have the right travel documents. That's pretty discretionary about what's a valid travel document, because if they don't want you to leave, they can keep you from leaving. And give you an idea of just how dangerous this is. When the U.S. Embassy was rushing to close down, they destroyed all papers and documents that would identify Afghans who were eligible for U.S. passports. So those Afghans who were waiting for a U.S. passport that they were entitled to, all that paperwork has gone up in smoke. Gone up in flames. They burned and destroyed all of that. And then ultimately, you have to consider this. What about the tens of thousands of Afghans who worked with the U.S. government and agencies sponsored by the U.S. government over 20 years? Some estimates say as many as 250,000 Afghans are actually eligible for a special immigrant visa to the U.S., 250,000 people. So what about their fate? So with one flight, it's really hard to say just how willing the Taliban will be to allow people to leave the country when they have, planes grounded on the tarmac up north. They're making it very difficult to leave the country, even though they're saying that we now want to engage with the rest of the world.
Now, Carl, you're asking about the faith of these individuals. What about the faith of the Taliban itself? Now, essentially, that airport has been run by Qatar. They don't have the Taliban. They don't have expertise to run the airport. Are we going to see other countries running other aspects of Afghanistan for the Taliban? Are they really in charge?
Well, it's interesting you said, because already China has announced that they are committing tens of millions of dollars of aid, humanitarian aid, to assist the Taliban. Again, China, they want to have a line of communication with them because they have a very small border, but it borders their politically sensitive province where the Uyghurs, the Muslim minority, lives. So they want to keep that open line. But at the same time, you're right, the Taliban government, they've gone from a guerrilla movement to one of governing. And they don't have the personnel with the experience, expertise to run a government. And that's why the real trick is this, because while they are trying to force, civil servants to return to the job, at the same time, they're saying they don't want women returning to the office. So no women in the banks. In their new government so far, there are no women ministers. So right now, it really looks like a throwback to the Taliban that we saw back in the 1990s, which was very repressive and very brutal. And then the problem also is that not only do they want legitimacy and recognition, they want access to their foreign reserves. It's about $9 billion in foreign reserves that are overseas and mostly held in U.S. banks. And right now, the U.S. has put a freeze on those access to those billions of dollars. The IMF has put a freeze on about $500 million, where basically the government is dry. They have maybe less than $100 million and $90 million to run on for a country of 40 million people. So this is what's really dire right now. They're predicting a dire humanitarian crisis for the country, with nearly 40% of the country facing malnutrition as we speak.
Well, thank you so much, our special correspondent KARL BOSTIC, for the insights.